This is what I always thought the Aventador was before I had driven it, and it turns out the first gen and the SV killed it for me. But this... to be quite frank, we forgot a mount, so I have been driving this car for a little bit. I've got news to report. I've actually got good news to report. I also didn't like really push the car. Here's what I want to know about this car. This is the big thing of the video. As most of you guys have probably heard me say before, I've never been a big fan of driving the Aventador. I've always been a massive fan of the Aventador, but not driving it. I drove an SV about 3 years ago when I had my NSX, 2 years ago. That was one of my, if not my favorite car on the planet, and I was very let down. It was just too much to drive. The gearbox always lets me down. It was 10 minutes of utter pleasure, followed by just fatigue, and I was over. But this is everything I imagined. I have always thought that the Aventador S could be the savior of my love for Aventadors, and that's the question of today's video. This is the last chance at me loving the Aventador, and so far it's done all of that for me. The gearbox is years better than the SV, the first gen Aventadors, the LP700, even a 50th anniversary. The suspension almost feels more supple, and is that in my head? I don't know. Could that be a part of the gearbox feeling better? Maybe. It feels significantly quicker. It's just an easier car to drive. The last Aventador I drove felt like a chore to drive, and this is just like... Oh my god. Actually, fuck me talking. No one needs to hear me. I am irrelevant. When you're driving an Aventador, it doesn't fucking matter what you're saying. This makes me so happy. I literally got out of an RS6 this morning, so let down, and was like, please, Lamborghini, don't let me down on the Aventador too. And I cannot imagine what driving the SVJ is like. I think this is the pinnacle of Lamborghini, because it's not gonna be that ALA race car version of the Aventador, but it has rear wheel steer. It has the soundtrack. It has pretty much the same interior, obviously a little more usable. This is it. This is what I always thought the Aventador was before I had driven it, and it turns out the first gen and the SV killed it for me. But this... I feel like a kid. I will apologize to anyone of my friends who I've gotten in arguments with about Aventadors. I will not apologize on behalf of the other ones I drove, but I will apologize for being naive that this car existed, and that a new generation, quote unquote, of Aventador existed. Because this is why people like the Aventador. Look at the sunset. What the fuck? Oh, thunder! Thunder! The car's causing thunder! This is such a disturbance to the peace. This is not okay, dude. I never thought I'd be, okay, I did think I'd be saying this when I was young, but I need an Aventador S. I always had a theory that I'd need an Aventador S, that I would love this car. And for that to be coming true right now makes me so happy. And it hasn't shifted into neutral yet once. About it. Alright, I have some thoughts. Jordan has thoughts. This isn't technically a stock Aventador. We are running a full Rift system and it has a tune. And supposedly he said the tune made a huge difference. Obviously it's an NA motor, so the tune's just really gonna mess with throttle response and give it just a little bit more horsepower, a little bit more torque. We're just gonna pretend it's stock, because I'm sure the stock Aventador S is not far off. We were just talking on the way here. He was asking me what I thought about the car. He's like, genuinely, you said you love Ferraris. We did a video on the F8 recently. He was there that day. And he said, which one, how do they compare? The F8 is usable. The F8's a rocket ship. Sure. And I love Ferrari, don't get me wrong, and I loved that car. But they serve two completely different purposes. I told him, I said, there's a reason why Lamborghini has been stubborn and has never thrown a dual clutch in this car. It's because that market that they're missing out on, they don't need to cater to. This is one of the only, if not the only car that drives with such aggression, gives this experience that is like nothing else. I can't even say it's like a race car because it's almost too quirky to be like a race car. The shifts are too brutal. It's not as good as a race car, but for that reason, like, this is why the Aventador is going to be one of the most special cars in history. This is why this engine is going to be one of the most special in history. And I think I finally understand why a dual clutch just wouldn't have suited this car. Because when they finally do it right, because it was shit in the first iteration, it works very well. I will demonstrate. It works so well. And this is the first time being in an Aventador I feel like it's semi-usable. The bottom line is this. Did they improve the Aventador massively between when they introduced four-wheel steer? Yes. Is it just because of the four-wheel steer? No. It's because of tuning and the transmission, and I'm sure a whole lot of things that I don't know about. When people say the Aventador is amazing, I'm gonna think of this car instead, because this is it. I've still said this, despite my poor relationship with the Aventadors, I have always said, before I even went in an SVJ, I've never driven an SVJ, that the SVJ, as well as the motor, will go down in history as one of the greatest cars ever. Greatest sounding cars, most special cars, greatest looking cars. I really want to film some bullshit review about this, but genuinely, this has been the most enjoyable car I've filmed with in a while. I want to thank Greg for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I've seen this car around Arizona for so long. Like I've said, I've always loved Aventadors in general, so seeing this car going around, it is, in my opinion, one of the best builds, if not my favorite build in all of Arizona. I know that's a big claim, but it's true. So kudos to Greg for everything he's done to this car. And again, thanks for letting me drive this car. It's not every day you get to drive a $500,000 Lamborghini around, and I understand that. I'm gracious, I'm aware of it. And for you guys watching out there, what we were just talking about is, it's sad to see a lot of people don't realize that things like this are attainable. It's not easily attained, and it takes years. It takes hard work. It's a trade-off for sure, but whether you want to put in the work or not, just don't forget that things like this are possible to attain. They're not impossible despite anyone's means of living right now. I've known people who have come from absolutely nothing to owning things like this and running businesses that have brought fruits like this. So just don't forget that these things are attainable. And I feel like I drive these cars lightly sometimes because sometimes friends like Greg or Steven just throw me the keys to these things, but don't forget that in these moments I'm extremely gracious, and I hope that people around the world who have dreamed of owning these things can realize that it is possible. It's not impossible. You don't need to stare at them and go, I wish that was me. There's things you can do. Sorry, that was super fucking motivational. I don't know. I just got happy. I haven't been happy in a car in a while. Kiki, what do you think of this?
This thing's insane.
Have you been in an Aventador before?
I have not. I don't even think I've heard of one.
And how great is this?
It's amazing.
I'm not even gonna end this video. I just, you know, my big TED talk I just did, I think was good enough. I'll have Greg's Instagram link down below if you want to follow the journey of this car. He's about to move to California, so this is about to be a California vehicle. Where I'm from, the San Diego County, shout out, I need an Aventador S.